Hello, Amanda with the Workforce Centers of South Central Kansas. Today I want to present our workshop on how to manage your worth by creating value. It's a soft skills course. If you're unsure of what soft skills are, don't worry. By the end, you'll be an expert. The reason why this course is so important is that many employers have said that they really have trouble finding quality employees that possess the soft skills they need to be successful, to not only gain employment, but to retain employment. So, today we're going to go over the skills that you need to be successful on the job and to be able to keep your job, and what kind of things you can do to improve those soft skills that you already have. First, you really need to think about who you are, what you want to be known for, because whether you are looking to get a label or not, everyone is going to get a label, whether that is good or bad. We are often observed by our coworkers, our supervisors, and they begin noticing patterns of behavior. And so, if you're the person that's always there 10 minutes early, or if you're the person that's always 5 minutes late, think for yourself. What do you want to be known for? Think of three things. Do you want to be known for the person that's really great at fixing things or solving problems or really, really excels at customer service, is trustworthy, is dependable? What qualities or skills do you want to be known for? And then think to yourself, what kind of things can I do to exhibit those traits and qualities so that hopefully that's how people will perceive me? And really, what you're doing is you're establishing what you want your personal brand to be. Once you get a label, it's really hard to change. That's why it's so important that you think about this now and go into your place of employment from the very beginning with your best foot forward. Because opinions are very hard to change. Once you get a reputation, it's so hard to reverse. Even if you're doing the right things, they don't know if it's going to be for the long term, and you have to really build that reputation. So if you're already employed and maybe you haven't been doing everything the way that you should be, I still encourage you to do everything that you can to change the direction or the path or the reputation that you have or are heading toward, and begin to put that best foot forward. It will be hard to change, and it'll take a little bit of time for people to see the new you and to change that reputation. But it can be done. But just try to keep in mind, it's better to start off right in the first place. You can create value for yourself by mastering soft skills. Soft skills are becoming the hard skills of today's workforce. Soft skills are hard to measure. It's really subjective. So that's where soft skills are a little bit different from technical skills. Soft skills include things like being assertive, showing empathy, being a team player, an effective communicator, possessing self-confidence, being creative, being trustworthy. All of those things and the many other things kind of get thrown into the soft skills category. Soft skills are key to building relationships and maintaining employment, as I mentioned before. Not only do you have to get the job, but now you need to keep the job. 75% of long-term job success depends on soft skills mastery. Only 25% is actually the technical skills to do the job. It truly is all about relationships, how well you get along with people when you are working, whether that's customers, coworkers, etc. Some of the reasons that people have been terminated from employment include fake excuses, internet use, being late, and social media posts, according to a Career Builder survey. You'll notice 41%, that's a huge chunk of all of those reasons that people were let go just for being late. So I would like to emphasize here that even though you do eventually show up to work, it is extremely important that you are there on time. And we'll talk about other things that go into the soft skills and potential reasons for being terminated and what you can do to, prevent yourself from being let go. I'd like for you to rank yourself. We're going to go over about 10 things here, and I'll ask you a question. Rank yourself on a scale 1 to 10. How you feel you do in that area. Be truly honest with yourself. After all, this is really for you. It's for you to be able to evaluate yourself and determine, what areas could you potentially improve upon. So when I ask you if you are dependable, think about these things. Do you call in sick on a regular basis? If you do happen to have something unexpected come up, do you let somebody know or do you no call, no show? If you have to miss work, are you finding coverage for yourself or trying to find somebody to fill in the gaps of whatever you're not able to accomplish? Do you return from your lunch and your breaks on time? As we mentioned, 41% got let go for being late. That includes lunch and break times. Are you late often? So are you late a couple times in one day? Are you late every week, every day, every month? Think about how often you are late. If that's a bunch, then I would say your dependability rating should be on the lower end. And sometimes we don't really know why maybe our organizations have the attendance policies they do, or maybe we feel that the policies, really not that fair. And I like to always give the why behind why this is important, why your being dependable is of value to the employer. One of the reasons is unscheduled absenteeism costs roughly $3,600 a year per hourly worker. Not to mention poor morale among employees who have to do the extra work. And I think we've all been there. And that never makes any of us happy, right? Having to do all the extra work because people just decided not to show up, right? Poor quality of goods and services and safety issues are among other things that tend to be the effects of when you're short-staffed. So go ahead and give yourself your ranking, 10 being you are the most dependable, you do very well at it, 1 being the least dependable, could truly use a lot of improvement. Do you present yourself well? Again, same rating scale. Present yourself really, really well, could use a lot of improvement. Did you know that 55% of another person's perception of you is based on how you look? So just by looking at you, some people already determine whether they like you or whether they trust you or what kind of worker you probably are. Think about things like, do your clothes fit? Does your outfit match? Is your attire appropriate for the work setting? Have you combed your hair? Is it styled neatly? Some other general rules of thumb: you don't want to show too much skin. You don't want to wear flip-flops. In fact, 95% of employers thought flip-flops should never be worn in the workplace. So maybe unless you're a lifeguard, leave the flip-flops out. Make sure that you aren't appearing unkempt. Don't be too flashy. And definitely, until you know the policy, cover tattoos, remove piercings, and always adhere to the dress code. Regardless of what you think is appropriate, follow what they have laid out in terms of the policy for their dress code. And then don't forget, you may have casual Friday, dress down Fridays. And even though it may be more casual, make sure that you're following appropriate attire for the work setting. Remember, your appearance matters because you're representing the company. You are now the face of the company. And how people perceive you is the reputation that the company is going to get. And that's why it is so important for you to look presentable, professional. It's also important for yourself. One, if you look good, you tend to feel better about yourself, and that's going to boost your confidence too. And the customers are going to be more likely to trust you. I mean, I know I wouldn't trust a surgeon getting ready to operate on me if they came in and they didn't look like they knew what they were doing. They look like they just walked off the street. I'm not going to trust that. So keep that in mind. That is why your appearance matters. Do you have a positive attitude? Are you always optimistic? Always have a positive attitude? Give yourself a 10. Could you use a lot of improvement in this area? Somewhere from the 1 to 10 scale. And I'm not sure what really comes first here: attitude, self esteem, self confidence, but it's a vicious cycle. And, if you have a positive attitude, you're probably going to feel better about yourself and you're going to have more self confidence. On the flip side, you have a bad attitude, you're not going to feel good about yourself, you're not going to have good confidence, and you're going to feel worse, have a worse attitude, feel worse about yourself. And it just continues to, go downhill from there. But not only does your attitude affect you, it also affects everyone around you, which is why it's even more important that you have a good attitude, because it's definitely a ripple effect. Per 20,000 new hires, 89% failed due to attitudinal reasonings, according to Forbes in 2012. Attitude has a lot to do with your willingness to grow and to learn and to take feedback and to be adaptable to change in the workplace. And that is definitely something that is needed because change happens all the time in the workplace. The impacts of attitude on the job, we've all been there. We've probably worked in some type of toxic environment at some point. Or we've worked in an environment where we had really good coworkers and we felt like we were part of a team. And so with negative attitude, you've got lackluster performance, unwillingness to collaborate, reduced energy levels, a dismal outlook, depressed feelings. Of course, the quality is reduced, poor customer service, and it's difficult to overcome obstacles. But if you have a positive attitude, you'll notice that there's increased productivity as well as greater collaboration, improved morale among team members. You're able to overcome adversity and challenges, willing to try new things, and lower turnover, a sense of camaraderie, and improved customer service. When we talk about turnover, that's exactly what happens when there's a negative attitude. People start dropping like flies. And then what happens? You're short staffed. And then it doesn't get very much more positive from there because things begin to take a toll on everybody. And the workplace, the attitude just becomes more and more negative. So if you have a positive attitude and your coworkers have a positive attitude, it's going to be so much easier to keep people and to be able to get more accomplished. How well do you manage your time? Go ahead and give yourself your rating. Before you do, though, think about these things. Are you focused? And when I talk about being focused, I'm talking about, do you let things get in the way, distract you, whether that's your phone or your coworker that you want to go chat with them? Are you organized? Are you spending a lot of your time trying to find something to get the job done? Have you got organized enough so that you can be more efficient and productive? Can you be more proactive? Have you thought about the things that could happen that could get in your way or challenges and how you might overcome them so that way you don't waste any time? Do you prioritize? Have you figured out what's most important to get those things done first? Are you delegating appropriately? Not to be lazy by delegating something to somebody else, but rather if you have so much on your plate and it would be hard to get whatever needs done based on priority because you've prioritized what needs to be done, asking for help to get it done. Can your processes or procedures be streamlined? We always should be looking at how we can improve and do better. And the same thing goes with our system, our routine, to become more efficient and to do things better. So be thinking about all of those things as well. Are you continually looking at how you can manage your time better, get more done? We all have the same 24 hours in a day, but you'll notice, some of us get more things done than others in that time. And it really comes down to these key things here. Are we focused? Are we organized? Are we being proactive? Did we prioritize? Are we delegating appropriately? And have we been trying to improve our processes? How well do you communicate? Before you give yourself your rating, think about these things as well. We communicate in various modalities: in person, over the phone, via email, and through body language. In fact, 93% of our communication has nothing to do with words. It's going to be the tone and inflection and our body language, all of the things that have nothing to do with the actual words that came out of our mouth. The cost of miscommunication can be very costly, and it includes high stress levels, delays in projects being completed, low morale, missed performance goals, lost sales, and conflict. So, why does the communication breakdown occur? Most miscommunications happen because either the sender fails to send the correct message, or the language is not sufficient or inappropriate to communicate the meaning, or lastly, the interpretation was not identical to what the sender intended. So there's a couple of different things that can potentially, to be aware of, and things that you can do to avoid that communication breakdown. So one of the theories as to why the communication breakdown occurs is assuming, presuming, and concluding. And we all know what assuming does. But many times in the work environment, it's kind of like telephone. Somebody tells you something, you assume it's correct because you presume they got it from their boss. And so you conclude that the information is totally golden, when in fact, it may not be exactly what the person previously had told them. If you've ever played telephone, we all know, usually by the time you get to the end of it, it's not the same message that was sent from the beginning of the line. Also, by avoiding face-to-face interaction, sometimes that can lead to miscommunications because, as with the percentage earlier, 93% is going to be tone, inflection, body language. And so if you're not face to face and we're missing some of those things, there could be miscommunications that occur. If you try to sound too professional, that kind of goes back to number 2 here. A lot of times we may be using words that are inappropriate or insufficient to communicate the meaning. A lot of times you really just want to keep it simple. That's going to lead to a lot less misunderstanding if you just keep it simple. But you don't want to under explain at the same time because then you're leaving out a lot of details. So that would go back to one, the sender fails to send the appropriate message, right? Or over explaining. What happens with over explaining is the message gets lost in translation because there's so many details. So that's where it goes back again to keeping it simple. Some other barriers to effective communication include stereotyping, assumptions, cultural language barriers or differences, distractions like our phone if we're communicating with somebody but our attention is not directly on the conversation at hand, emotions. If you've ever had a conversation with somebody that maybe you don't really like that well, maybe they get on your nerves, whatever, it's hard to listen, and we just kind of tune them out. We block that out. So, or if you're upset, all of those things can lead to that miscommunication. Impatience, maybe you have somewhere to be, somewhere to go, and you're just like, come on, give me the details. I got something else to do. That can also lead to that. Laziness and boredom. So, what can you do to improve those communication skills? You can be a good listener and truly listen. Listen intentively, actively to exactly what they're saying. Rephrase what they've said to make sure you've understood it. Consider nonverbal cues. Communicate with good clarity and concision. Always be friendly and respectful. Be confident. If you're not confident in what you're saying, the person receiving the message isn't going to be confident in what you said either. Make sure you keep an open mind. A lot of times when we think we know what is going to be said, we have already blocked out or we're already assuming and we've missed some important information. And then make sure you use the correct medium. So some conversations may need to be had face to face, might not need to go through text or email. So choose your medium carefully as well. Are you capable of resolving conflict? Go ahead and give yourself a rating as to how well you resolve conflicts. Typical workers spend nearly 3 hours a week dealing with some type of conflict. 3 hours seems like quite a bit every week. But when we talk about conflict, I'm not talking about, throwing punches, anything like that. We're talking about just disagreements, some type of obstacle or challenge among workers because they may have varying opinions, etc. And a lot of times this happens due to there are multiple generations in the workplace. You've got, the older generation, the younger generation. And many times they have varying work styles, the way that they want to communicate, work habits, etc. You've also got various technologies, different cultures and nationalities, varying priorities. A lot of times in the workplace, somebody may be the person that's in charge of sales and that's their goal. Another person might be more focused on quality. And sometimes everyone's goals kind of overlap and it can cause a little bit of conflict. So understanding that each person has a job to do and their job is important just like yours is, and trying to see how you can best compromise for a resolution. And then you've got different preferences for working styles and communication. Not all conflict is bad. In fact, it can be a positive thing. And usually it is through conflict that the best ideas and results are produced. There's this phenomenon called groupthink, where people just tend to conform to the decision of one person because they do not want to stir the pot or cause conflict. And it could be a horrible suggestion, but instead of throwing out an alternative suggestion, they would just rather not be singled out that they didn't agree, or, they're worried that it would cause conflict, and so they're trying to avoid it. But the problem with that is, if it's a horrible idea, you want to throw out some additional options. And that way, hopefully, upon Every individual that's part of the discussion, can throw in some input and decide what the best options will be, the best alternative, the best plan of action. So, some strategies for managing conflict include being a good listener. And you've already heard that already, but you'll probably hear me say it a few more times before the end of this as well. Use I statements. Make sure the time is right. It's not always the right time to bring certain things up, especially if it doesn't impact a lot of people. At a team meeting, it might not be the time to bring up certain situations. It may be something you need to bring up just between you and your supervisor. Sometimes it also may be time to bring in a mediator. If you feel you're not getting the resolution and you're not really getting anywhere with a compromise, it may be time to bring in a third party to help navigate the conversation, help present solutions, and help hold each other accountable. Do others consider you a team player? Would you say you're a great team player, or could that use some work on your end? Go ahead and give yourself your rating, but also keep in mind these things here. Are you perceptive, intuitive, and sensitive to your teammates' needs? Are you able to negotiate with your peers? Do you genuinely value their ideas? The reason that being a team player is super important is it does attract top talent. It builds a friendly culture. We talked about retaining employees earlier, and so it definitely does that if you've got a real good team environment. I know I've stayed at jobs before just because I love the people. I maybe didn't like the work so much, but I love the people. And when you enjoy who you work with, it definitely retains the employees. It fosters creative learning and it blends complementary strengths, builds trust, promotes a wider sense of ownership, and encourages healthy risk taking. How would you rank your decision-making skills? Decision-making skills has been in the top 10 of most in-demand soft skills for a while now. In 2020, though, you'll see that there are 10 of the top 10 skills, and a lot of them are directly related to decision making. You've got 1, complex problem solving, 2, critical thinking, 3, creativity, 4, people management, 5, coordinating with others, 6, emotional intelligence, 7, judgment and decision making, 8, service orientation, and 9, negotiation, 10, cognitive flexibility. So decision making is not going away. You're going to have to make some critical decisions in the workplace. And sometimes you're going to have to make that decision, quickly without being able to really consult. It may be an urgent decision, and they have to be able to trust that you're going to make the right decisions for you and the company. Critical thinking improves our decision. You'll notice there's a couple different pyramids here. They essentially resemble the same concept of, usually your critical thinking process to improve decisions is based on research or remembering what has happened in the past, understanding what has happened, figuring out a plan of attack, essentially. So applying your knowledge, then analyzing what the results were, and then evaluating further and creating a new plan to better improve for continuous improvement of those skills. And so you may have to actually use your critical thinking skills for various scenarios in the workplace, but here are just a few. Deciding how you should respond to something that is said to you. That's going to, take our communication soft skill. Also emotional intelligence is going to be involved there as well. evaluating strengths and weaknesses of team members. So that way, that goes back to teamwork and team building, and how to make better decisions and solve problems. So that's going to go back to decision making and problem solving here. And you're going to have to do this on a regular basis in the workplace. Some decisions won't be as critical as others, while others will be very critical. But you'll be constantly making decisions. So you need to be a good problem solver, and you need to use the critical thinking process to make the best decisions. How would you rate your customer service skills? Customer service is the provision of service to customers before, during, and after the sale. A few just pointers in customer service here. Always smile. Go the extra mile. Be personable. Keep your promises. Be a good listener. Yes, I said it again. And follow up. So you want to be approachable, and that's what smiling is and being personable is all about in customer service. You also want to do everything you can to help the customer out. You want to go above and beyond, but you don't want to promise and underdeliver. And then you want to follow up to make sure that they did receive whatever service or product that they needed and that it worked out for them. Problem solving steps in customer service. Most of the time, customers are coming to you for some type of resolution to a problem that they may be having, whether that's for a product or service, etc. Typically, what you'll want to do is greet the customer, whatever that greeting looks like for your organization. Definitely with a smile, though, right? Then you're going to actively listen, hear them out, what they need, ask questions so you understand, again, what they need. And part of actively listening is, eye contact, nodding, asking questions, rephrasing. All of those things encompass active listening. Make sure you empathize with them, so relate to how they may be feeling or what happened. Identify what the exact problem is and give them that reassurance of help. So I understand you're looking for this. No problem. I can definitely see what we can do to find you something that will solve that for you. Then find the solution, present that to them, and again, follow up at the end. Make sure that's exactly what they were looking for. Make sure they don't need anything else. And you'll see here on this graphic, I really like it because it talks about the top 10 soft skills for customer service jobs. And everybody is pretty much in a customer service job. I can't think of one job, in fact, that it's not customer service. You will be doing customer service to some extent, some jobs more than others. But for the top 10 soft skills, we're talking clear communication, listening skills, self-control. And that means even though they may be coming at you, harsh, upset, that you still keep your control and you still treat them with respect and the great customer service that organizations are going to demand that you provide. Have a positive attitude, be assertive, use your conflict resolution strategies, show empathy, depersonalizing the situation, realizing that the problem is with whatever may be happening, not necessarily targeted at you, and take responsibility, even if you didn't cause the problem. I'm sorry this happened. I will get that fixed for you. You never, never, never blame it on a coworker or anybody. You just own it and you fix it. And you always still need a sense of humor to lighten things up a little bit. So who are your customers? I mentioned before that everybody is really going into customer service. Customers include your coworkers, your supervisor, the actual people walking through the front door for either your product or service that you may be offering. But it's also vendors and third parties. Anybody you come in contact with is your customer. You know, you never want to burn a bridge. So these people, you know, whether it's the people coming through the front door, you want them to be repeat customers. So you want to make sure you're providing that top-notch customer service. And then, you know, when we talk coworkers and supervisors and things like that, you never know who's going to be your next supervisor. You never know when maybe you might need to use your supervisor for a reference. Anybody you come in contact with is your customer, and you should be providing the utmost respect, quality, and service for each person you come in contact with on a daily basis. So, how are you using your social media? Social media has gotten a lot of people in trouble lately. So, I like to go over social media, and you might not have figured that this really came into the soft skills category, but it's definitely something that you should be aware of that is impacting people, whether they get jobs, keep jobs, etc. So, are you using your social media responsibly or carelessly? How would you rank yourself? And you might ask yourself, you know, are the things that you're posting something that you'd be comfortable with your employer to see? Is it anything being shared that's confidential or sensitive information? Is this a conversation I need to have online? And does this conversation align with your personal brand? What is your company's social media policy? There are a few things employers definitely do not want to see in your tweets or posts, and that includes things like nudity, sexuality type posts, alcohol, drugs, and grammar mistakes is one of those. And that's one of the more difficult ones that people don't usually guess when we're playing this game. And so those are the things that you definitely want to think about. They don't want to see the text type talk on your Facebook. They want to see that you can actually write properly. Here's a couple examples of how people ended up in hot water via their tweets or social media posts. There was this one from Chipotle, and his tweet read, "At Chipotle tweets, nothing is free, only cheap labor. Crew members make only $8.50 an hour. How much is that steak bowl really?" And with this individual here, you know, it doesn't look good that, I mean, he wasn't really trying to hide it. He tweeted his company, but it doesn't make him look good that he's, you know, kind of bashing them. And then when the next employer goes to check him out, they're going to see this. And one thing that you definitely shouldn't do is talk bad about an employer. That's like a big no-no. So he does end up eventually losing his job. And, you know, so here he lost his job and now somebody else is going to see this. So this is definitely something you want to avoid. And then we got Gilbert Godfrey here, and he's a comedian, so being funny and cracking jokes and probably being insensitive is what he does on a regular basis. But one of his tweets from when there was a tsunami in Japan resulted in him also losing the contract that he had at the time. And so even though you may think it's funny that no harm was really done, keep in mind if you're being insensitive, that it also impacts how people perceive you and could actually impact your job as well. After being offered a position from a California tech company in Cisco, a lady tweeted, Cisco just offered me a job. Now I have to weigh the utility of a fatty paycheck against the daily commute to San Jose and hating the work. What happened here is that the lady actually had her offer rescinded. An individual saw the tweet and said he'd pass her sentiments on to the HR people there. So tweets like these are things that are getting people in trouble either once they already have a job or keeping them from finding employment. So whether you're looking for work or already have a job, be careful about what you post on social media. It is impacting potential employment opportunities. So don't let your social media cost you. Make sure you think before you post. Remember, you may be able to delete it, but those that have already seen it, the damage is done. Plus, people can screenshot these days too. Create privacy settings, but don't rely on them to safeguard you in the day of screenshots. So the privacy settings are nice just so that way you can try to determine who can see your stuff. Because when you're looking for work, employers, they are seeking out your social media. And I get that question all the time. They will Google you. They will look at your social media to see if you're the kind of employee they may want in their workforce. So how do you create value? Really all of the things that we talked about and I asked you to rank yourself on. Be dependable. Tend to your appearance. Possess a positive attitude. Manage your time well. Effectively communicate. Resolve conflicts. Be a team player. Make wise decisions. Provide excellent customer service. And use social media responsibly. And so you create value every day by being respectful, being fair, using good communication skills, operating with integrity, being flexible and versatile, the customer delight, being excellent at customer service. Value addition. What value addition is becoming a subject matter expert in a certain area. So if people find that, you're really great at using Excel, they're going to come to you when they have an issue with Excel. If they find that, if they have to call out that you're willing to take on extra hours, they're going to call upon you. That's how you create value, becoming known for something, whether it's a skill or an attitude or a behavior that gives value to you, but is also valuable to others when they're in a pinch. That's your value addition. Your performance. So doing things quality, on time, all of those things add value to you. And taking ownership. Being willing to, own up to your mistakes. We all make mistakes. Being able to own up to it and fix it. Owning up problems that were not yours and fixing them for somebody else. That's how you create value. And really, when this is all, said and done here, you've ranked yourself. Look at how you scored. Figure out which areas you could use for improvement. Because what happens with value is this. When organizations have to let go, or maybe when there is an opportunity for a promotion, they're going to be looking at how valuable you are. And if you're not as valuable, you're probably going to be one of the first ones to be let go. If you are really valuable, you're probably going to be one of the first ones to get promoted. So creating value increases your worth. And it's not impossible. It's very possible to increase your value. And typically, I would normally play a video of Will Smith, and I would encourage you to check out his videos. He has an extremely good amount of advice on work ethic and really just being consistent. That's another message I like to talk about, because creating value isn't doing something just one day. You have to be consistent in what you're doing. So being dependable all the time, that's how you create value. It's consistent behaviors that brand you and create that value. If you have any questions or concerns, hopefully you found this helpful. I know nothing was super rocket science that I told you today, but I hope that it was a refresher to remind you of the things that are important to employers, why it's important to employers, and how you can go about doing things to potentially help you become better in those areas so that you can increase that value for yourself. Of course, follow us on Facebook, subscribe to our channel. We'll be posting more and more videos as we get back into the workforce center here as we reopen. And so we'll be putting more and more workshops out there for you. We thank you and appreciate your time.